I got fired. I got fired on my day off, actually. Fired on my day off. Like, is this Friday or what? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Stephanie. I like to film vlogs, anything beauty related, story times, so on and so forth. So I'm bringing you guys a story time, and I'm spilling the tea about how I got fired during this pandemic. Girl, what a time to get fired, let me tell you, okay? Before we get into the video, just make sure to subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a little comment, and also don't forget to share this with your friends and your family. Okay, so to give you guys a little history, I was working at the grocery store, and the grocery store is called Erewhon. And yes, I'm name dropping because fuck Erewhon. But I know a lot of people love that place. If you don't know what Erewhon is a bougie ass, expensive ass grocery store that's for like health conscious people, people who eat organic or whatever. And I'm not knocking that. Like, if you want to eat organic, go ahead. But that place is something else. Everything is beyond expensive. And for some reason, people love to go there. So I worked there for 2 years, 2.5 years. Worked there for 2.5 years. I was a cashier, and then I got moved up to be a trainer. So what a trainer did is basically I would train the new people how to use the POS, how to bring people up, easy stuff, okay? So yeah, I was a trainer, and then a couple months ago, I want to say about like 2 months ago, I decided to demote myself. I decided that I didn't want to be a trainer anymore. And it's not that my position was hard. It wasn't hard at all. It's just, it was a little stressful. Anytime a new cashier messed up, it was on me. Just anytime they made a mistake, I was the one that was being looked at because I was the one who was supposed to be training them. So I decided that I didn't want to deal with that anymore. On top of that, I hadn't got a raise in like a year. And I wasn't the only one who didn't get a raise. My whole department didn't get a raise in a long time. Other departments hadn't got raises in a long time. So like the company was just being very stingy. Like before, like they used to be like, okay, raise. Every few months, raise. But I don't know if it was because we had a new manager, we had a new store director, which by the way, he can kiss my ass because he sucked. He didn't care about his employees. He was racist. He was sexist. Like, he didn't care about anybody but himself. He thought he was a comedian. He worried more about being a comedian than being a store director. So let's keep that there. So I hadn't got a raise in a long time, and I just like was not happy with my position. I was not happy. Like, I didn't want to move up because I didn't want more responsibility, but I didn't want to get demoted because I don't want to lose my pay. And like I had said before, like I have to pay rent and I have to pay like so many bills as so many other people do. So like I couldn't afford to lose my pay. And so I thought that if I demoted myself that I would lose it. But because I was so unhappy, I decided to demote myself anyway. And then on top of that, I started dating Ozzy. And so me demoting myself and then me dating Ozzy, we were trying to keep it a secret, and like people started adding things up and people started finding out. So it was just like a lot of tricky things going on. But overall, like I was not happy working at that store. I was not happy working for the company. From the outside, as a customer, from a customer's point of view, it might seem like an amazing place to work at, but really they do not care about their employees at all. So like I had said, I did work there for 2.5 years. In those 2.5 years that I worked, I never stole money, never took money. For the most part, my drawer was pretty good. Throughout my 2 years there, yes, I did get write-ups, and yes, I was late, and yes, I did get suspended one time, but it was never because I was stealing money. So just keep that in mind. When this pandemic started, the company decided not to give raises or anything. They decided to give $2 hazard pay. They only gave it for like 3 pay periods, and it really didn't help. Also, when COVID started, we started doing online orders. So people were able to go on our website and order groceries from there, and then we would have delivery drivers take the groceries out to them. So when we started doing the deliveries and stuff, we actually created a new department for curbside. So that's what we call it. We call it curbside or web cart. And that's just like the people who are in charge of fulfilling those orders and making sure that the orders are correct and the orders are going to the right people and whatnot. So a new department was created, and that's the department that Ozzy was in, and that's how I met him, blah, blah, blah. As time went on, us cashiers, we started being trained to fulfill those orders and to shop the orders. Basically, management wanted to make sure that all cashiers knew how to do it, just in case somebody from curbside called out, or just in case they wanted to throw one of us in because curbside was too busy. Whatever it was, they wanted cashiers to be trained in doing the orders. There was a couple times where I was scheduled to do curbside, but it was a very rare when I would do curbside. I would not do it every day. I did not shop the orders every day because, like I said, there was a department for that. So there were already people who were trained to do that. Like literally they would spend their 8 hours just shopping the orders. And so whenever they were short, of course, they would throw one of us in there. Okay, so a month ago, when I was working there, one of my last few days working at that store, I was scheduled to work curbside. So literally, I don't know, I think it was like a holiday, I'm not even sure. It was some type of little holiday, but I was there at 7 a.m. and I had to do some orders. I was scheduled at 7 and the next curbside person wasn't scheduled until like 11 or 11:30. So when I got there, when I arrived to the store, there was already like 4 or 5 orders to be fulfilled by 9:30. All morning I was hustling, like I was getting the orders, I was trying to work as fast as I can while doing a good job, of course. And so there was a particular order that I was fulfilling, and so a lot of the times if we don't have the specific item that the customer wants, we have to call them or text them, ask them if they want a replacement or if they want to just skip on that item. So for this particular order, let's say Sarah. So I was fulfilling Sarah's order and there was a lot of items that we didn't have that she wanted. So I went ahead and I called Sarah like, hey, we don't have these items, but you know, we do have these replacements. Like if you want, like I can grab these for you instead. Let me know if this works out. And she was like, okay, well this works, this doesn't work, whatever. We started going down the list together. And so she was super nice. And we got off the phone and I grabbed her any items that she asked for. So boom, I got the items that she wanted. I went ahead and I closed out her order and then I put it in the bag until she came to pick it up. When I was done with her order, I went ahead and I started the next order. So at this point, it was close to 9 a.m. And a lot of the times, customers, if they know that their order is gonna be ready early, they'll show up early. So she knew that her order was gonna be ready early because we had just talked on the phone and I had told her it's gonna be like another 30 minutes and she said that she wanted to come in and pick it up earlier. So I said, that's fine. So it was close to 9 o'clock and I'm at the register and I'm closing out another order. And as I'm closing out this order, at my store, we had valet. I know that sounds extra bougie, but I'm telling you, it's so expensive. Like, yes, we have valet. So as I was closing out a different order, one of the valet guys actually came up to me. He was like, oh, Sarah's here to pick up her order. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll go to the back and I'll grab it for her. So I went to the back, I grabbed it, I brought it to the front, and the valet guy was nice enough to take it outside for me. A lot of the times, curbside just takes it out themselves, but he offered to take it out for me. So I was like, okay, cool. So I handed him the bags and he took it to Sarah. A couple minutes later, literally a couple minutes later, he comes back. And so when he comes back, I'm still at the register and next to him is the store director. So remember this, next to him is the store director. So the valet guy comes up to me and he says, here, it was a $20 tip. When the valet guy gave me the tip, the store director was looking at me. So when he handed me the tip, I put it in my pocket because it's my tip. And so when I put it in my pocket, the store director was just staring still. He was just standing there, didn't say a word, was just staring. When I got that $20 tip, I decided to buy everyone in my department some drinks. From time to time, some people would buy drinks, or some people will buy snacks, or some people will bring donuts. So I was like, all right, today I have the drinks, like no worries, like I got a tip, I got the drinks, I got you guys. So I bought everybody a drink. So it wasn't even like I kept the whole $20 to myself. So about 3 hours go by. So it's around 11:30, around there. And Dennis finally got to work. We were cool, doing orders, we were busy. It was a little holiday. So, we're just going back and forth, trying to get these orders out on time. More hours go by, and it's a little after 1 o'clock. So I'm about to go on my last 10, because I'm off at 3:30. And so I'm about to go on my last 10. But then Dennis comes up to me and he was like, hey, did you get a tip earlier? I said, yeah, I did. He was like, okay, because management just told me to tell you that all tips need to be put in the tip jar that's down there. If not, then whoever takes the tip is gonna get fired. So then I told him, I was like, I already spent the money and Craig seen me put it in my pocket. Craig is the store director, by the way. So that's his real name. His name is Craig. But yeah, so his name's Craig. And so I told Dennis, I was like, Craig seen me put it in my pocket and he didn't say anything. So if he didn't say anything, then I'm assuming there's nothing wrong, and everybody keeps tips anyway. So I don't know what the issue is. And so Dennis was like, no, it's cool. Like, don't worry. Like, like I won't say anything. So I was like, all right, bet. Like, you won't say anything. I kept it, whatever. So nothing was said the rest of the day. I went on my 10, I went home, boom, whatever, day was over. So that was a Monday. Tuesday I was off, and then I came back to work on Wednesday. So I came back to work on Wednesday. Everything was just like normal. Almost close to 10 a.m. The store director, Craig, called me into his office. So I went into the office, and in the office, he's in there with a different manager, but not a manager from my department. She was a manager from a different department. And so he's in there, and they're both like quiet and like looking at me and stuff. And he was like, I have a question. Like, on Monday, were you given a tip? I said, yes. I'm not gonna lie, like, yes, like I was given a tip. You were right there, you were right next to me. Like, if I lied, like, you were right next to me. Like, why would I lie? And so he was like, oh, were you not told by Dennis that you were supposed to put it in the jar? And I said, yeah, he told me. And then he was like, did it make it into the jar? And I said, no, it didn't make it into the jar. And he said, why not? And I said, because I had already spent it. Like, does he not realize that it is so easy to spend money? If I'm given a tip, why wouldn't I spend it? So then after I told him that it didn't make it into the jar, he said, okay, I'm gonna have to talk to HR about this. As soon as I get off the phone with them, I'll let you know what they say. So I said, okay. And I went back to my register. So I went back to my register, and at this point, I was a little irritated. You as a store director should say something when you see one of your employees doing wrong. You should correct it to avoid any situation, correct or incorrect? Right or wrong? I want to say about 5 minutes, if that, go by. Then he calls me into the office again. And at this point, he had to have somebody cover my register so that they could take customers while I go into his office. So I go into his office, and he was like, oh, I just spoke with HR and you're under investigation. He was like, I'm gonna have to suspend you because you were told not to take the tip and that it had to be put in the jar. He said, once I hear back from HR, I will be in contact with you. He said, do you have any questions? I said, yes. I said, why am I being suspended and why am I under investigation? I was like, it makes no sense that other people get to keep their tips, because everybody would keep their tips. Me as a cashier, if a person gave me a tip, I was allowed to keep it. All the other curbside people got to keep their tip. Not once have I ever been told that I could not keep a tip. And like I had mentioned before, I barely ever did curbside. barely ever did curbside. I would help them out here and there, but it wasn't a consistent thing. So I don't know what their policies are. I don't know what their rules are. Like, if you don't explain things to your employees, how do you expect them to do right? It makes no sense. And so I told him that. I was like, I never signed anything saying that I couldn't keep a tip. I was never explained the policy on tips. And I just thought we can all keep tips. Like, it makes no sense. Everybody keeps tips. Side note, at my job, there's a cafe and a tonic bar, and they have tip jars. So when I had told him, like, you know, I never signed anything, no one explained the policy to me, like, I didn't know we couldn't keep tips, like, how was I supposed to know? And he was like, well, just like deli and tonic, you're supposed to put the tips in the tip jar and they get split evenly. Okay, but I'm not in either one of those departments. So how am I supposed to know how their tip jar works or how their tip policy works when I'm not in either one of those departments? Like, do you guys not understand how this is ridiculous? Like, how this doesn't make sense? So at that point, I was like very frustrated. I was very irritated because he was not understanding what I was saying. If you do not explain a policy to your employees and you don't make it clear, how are they supposed to know what the policy is? It doesn't make sense. Basically, I got suspended. So when you get suspended, you have to leave the premises immediately. I had to go tell my department manager, like, hey, I'm suspended. Can you drop my till? I have to go. It was like 10 a.m. at this point. I had only worked 3 hours at this point before he suspended me. I clocked out and I walked out the store. As I was walking out the store, Ozzy called me. We met up because he was on break. And so we met up and I told him what happened. And he was like, oh, you know, like, that's so dumb. Like, he could have at least given you a warning. Like, it makes no sense. Like, it's ridiculous. Whatever. So I got suspended. So I was like, okay, you know what? If anything, I'll be suspended for like 3 days. Because usually a suspension at my job is 3 days and then you get to go back to work. But this time I was under investigation, so I didn't know how long I was going to be suspended for. But I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, you know what? It's a tip. Like, you know, maybe they're just trying to scare me a little bit, you know, trying to get me to think or whatnot. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just take this rest of the day. I'm going to chill. I'm off tomorrow. So, you know, like, I'm going to just chill. I'm going to just take these days. These days ended up being a month, girl. Because Craig called me the next day. And he said, unfortunately, we're gonna have to part ways with you. I have your last check updated here. You can come pick it up whenever you want. I'm fired because I took a tip for doing a good job. What? I'm fired for taking a tip when you never explained to me that I couldn't keep tips. And instead of giving me a warning, you fire me. That's interesting. That's a very interesting. And what's even more interesting is he watched me put it in my pocket. And instead of telling me, hey, you have to put it in the jar, he continued to watch me put it in my pocket and didn't say anything. And actually had somebody else tell me that I couldn't keep it. And then 2 days later, he pulls me into his office saying that I'm suspended for keeping it when he watched me put it in my pocket. And this whole situation could have been avoided if he would have just told me, hey, you know what? Put it in the jar. You can't keep it. If he would have just explained to me that I couldn't keep it, none of this would have happened. But you know what? Some managers will find any way to get rid of you. And some managers don't know how to be managers, and they don't have the best interests of their employees, and that shows. So yeah, I got fired. I got fired on my day off, actually. Fired on my day off. Like, is this Friday or what? But yeah, so that happened a month ago. 2 weeks after I got fired, I decided to go back in to work to go pick up my check, because you have to go pick up your last check and sign your name and whatever. So 2 weeks later, I went to go pick up my last check. And so the manager on duty at the time, which fuck her too, she was like, oh, here's your check, sign your name here. Instead of signing my name though, I put fuck Craig. because that's how I'm really feeling. You ain't shit. Okay, so I signed that, and you know what, honestly, I was just so unhappy there. And you know, I'm stressed right now. I'm stressed, but I am so happy I do not work there anymore. I can say that. I had been wanting to leave forever, and you know what, things happen for a reason, and that's okay. But the way they fired me was very stupid. It was a very stupid reason. And also, let me mention, the day I got fired, when he said that he had my last check and to go pick it up whenever, I asked him for the number to HR. So he went ahead and he gave me the number to HR. So after we got off the phone, I called HR. And so I'm telling them my whole argument. They never explained the policy to me. I never signed anything. Like, it was never explained to me. Like, I don't really do curbside when I'm on register. Like, we're able to keep tips. Like, everyone keeps tips. Like, all that, okay? I was explaining all that. I spilled the tea about how he watched me put it in my pocket and whatever. When I told them that he literally watched me put it in my pocket, they said, he probably didn't see you put it in your pocket. That's probably your perspective of things. You probably thought he watched you put it in your pocket, but he didn't. I was like, he did watch me put it in my pocket because he's the one who told Dennis to put it in the jar hours later after I spent it. And they're like, how do you know he told Dennis? And I was like, because Dennis told me. Like, they think I'm just like making these things up or something. Like, and then on top of that, I was like, if you guys want, you guys can run back the video, run back the tape, because on the tape you can see that he's watching me put the money in my pocket when I received it. And I was like, that store loves to run tapes, and they do love to run tapes. Anytime they think somebody's stealing or anytime they think somebody's doing something, they love to run tapes. So I was like, go ahead, tell them to run the tapes, and you can see that he's watching me put the money in my pocket. And then they were like, well, Craig's faults aren't your faults, and that's why you got terminated. You're HR. What? You're HR. You're supposed to be helping me out. You're supposed to be hearing me out, not arguing with me about why I got terminated. When I'm explaining to you that these policies are not explained to the employees. What? What? Anyways, that guy at HR, you too, because why are you arguing with me? Why? You're worse than a bitch. Like, why? For real. That little conversation that we had, that little back and forth conversation that we had was so irritating. I just wanted to throw my phone across the room. I felt like I was talking to a wall. Like, no one was understanding my perspective of things. Like, they didn't care. They didn't care that these policies are not explained. They didn't care about anything. Just like management doesn't care about the employees, HR doesn't care about the employees either. And that's facts. So if you're thinking about working at Air One, don't, because it's the worst. At least the Venice store. Don't work at the Venice store. Any store that Craig is at, don't work there. And I'm letting you know now, because he will not do anything for you. He does not care about his employees. He's not a good manager. Listen, he's not a good manager at all. So yeah, that is my story on how I got fired during a pandemic. And you know, it might be a blessing in disguise. All I gotta say is, fuck Air One, fuck Craig, fuck everyone at Air One in management. Y'all suck. Oh, and fuck Tony and his wife. Y'all can kiss my big toe, okay? Cause to run a company like that and not care about your employees and not want to give raises, and you're charging and taxing all your customers, but you don't want to give a raise to your employees, and you want to open all these stores? Come on now. And when you actually come and visit your stores, you don't want to acknowledge your workers because you think you're better than them? Oh, honey, you would never succeed like that. That is going to conclude my story time. I 0 out of 10 recommend anyone working there. Honestly, I do not recommend it at all. Don't do it to yourself. But that is all I have to say, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little video of me ranting and me letting you know how I got fired during this pandemic. If you guys liked this video, make sure to share it, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe down below. All right, guys, I will see you guys next time.